Hey people, Trish Wood here. We are going to talk about what happened on Friday night at the Astroworld Festival in Houston, where 8 people, as of this taping, died and dozens more were hurt. And while all of that was going on, this carnage, the concert proceeded. It didn't stop, and it seemed to take a very, very, very long time for security, medics, stewards, as they call them in the UK, people who are supposed to be keeping the peace and keeping people safe. It seemed to have taken a very, very long time for any of those people to step up. If I'm wrong, if those stories are wrong, then a million apologies, but it certainly seems that way from the eyewitness accounts. We're going to get into that in a minute. But what's more interesting is the idea now globally that Travis Scott is personally somehow responsible for the dying. And I just want to say something about that. I don't like him. I think he's sort of a jerk. I don't like his music, and he's behaved really, really badly in his concert career. You've probably heard by now about the time that he was at Lollapalooza and he was charged with inciting violence or something. I think he pled guilty there. There's a story, and there's actually video of him dealing with a bunch of, probably inebriated kids who were trying to jump over a balcony at a venue, and he didn't tell them not to. He was kind of encouraging them to do it. Seemed that way anyway. And one of them is paralyzed now, and I believe maybe sued him too. So that's not a good look. But the one thing that Travis Scott did that really offended me personally, when I saw it over the weekend, because people were posting this video of him on Twitter, was an event where he was crowd surfing, which is where you jump out into the crowd and they pass you around, and it's all very dangerous and cool. And I guess somebody tried to snipe his sneaker or something, and he got mad. And what he did was encourage the crowd to attack this person. I mean, imagine that. Trying to incite a mob to attack a fan who tried to steal your sneaker. I mean, it's shocking. Here's some of the video. Sorry about the language, too.
Get that motherfucker, get him! You trying to take my shoe? You want to be a thief? Fuck him up! 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 Boo! 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 Fuck his ass up!
So that's pretty awful, right? That's why I'm not a Travis Scott fan. Having said that, I also don't think that he knew on Friday night. There's no indication he knew what was actually going on. Fans were chanting, "Stop the show." That's true. It's on tape. I heard it. But, did he know that it was as serious as it was and kept on going? I don't think so. You'd have to be a psychopath, really. And I as much as I don't like him, I don't think he's a psychopath. So I think there's a whole bunch of explanations for it. It's dark. You have people who are, behaving enthusiastically at a concert. Who knows what he thought that chant could have meant? So I'm prepared to, at least for now, let him off the hook on that front. On the fact that he was a stakeholder in this event and is responsible for his fans' safety, I do not. I think he is responsible for that, and for whatever negligence may be found, will likely include him, because he's the big boss, right? He's the headliner, and I believe one of the producers. So that's my feeling about Travis Scott. I think the bigger story, and I think people are missing it, is this. I think the bigger story is that it looks like they're already stitching a narrative. And what I mean by that is that from the get-go on Friday and all through Saturday and Sunday, there was a story about this nutty, crazy person going around injecting people and suggesting that the people who were falling over and dying were dying of drug overdoses and because they'd been injected with this. The eyewitness testimony does not really bear that out. People are describing crush-asphyxia, people who were there and saw it, right? But it seems like the powers that be are talking in ways that kind of blame the audience here. And the beauty of blaming the audience is that it lets all the big, powerful people off the hook for this, right? So there's an historical precedent for this, which we're going to talk about in a minute, and I've got a brilliant guest on the show that we're dropping tonight, but I have some clips for you, and you can hear what he says about this. He is the guy who exposed the lie and the myth that followed the Hillsborough mass crush-asphyxia event at the Hillsborough Stadium in Sheffield, England, in a football match. 97 people were killed that day. And the story began immediately that it was caused by drunken Liverpool fans. Soccer hooliganism is what they said, or football hooliganism in the UK. And that smeared everybody who was in the Liverpool fandom at the time, including all those people in the pens where it happened. People were pushed to the front and crushed. It's just the scenes from it are absolutely terrifying and awful. And 97 people died. One of them recently, many others had serious brain damage from the asphyxia, and others are traumatized for life. But the police started the story that what happened was caused by drunken hooligans. And it took decades for that lie to be undone. The man who undid that lie is on my show tonight when it drops, and I'm going to play a couple clips for you here. And he's concerned that the same thing is going to happen here, that this story about the drugs, which was repeated actually to a New York Times reporter as well, and they're just, and this came from, who did this come from? This came from the mayor, Mayor Sylvester Turner, who knows the family of Travis Scott for years, yet promises a thorough review and investigation. And then he says, they had more security over there than we had at the World Series games. Okay, so then what went wrong with your security? You know, they could let you off the hook. And he also says, I don't even want to go to drug overdoses, he says, even though he doesn't want to go there. We're looking at all potential causes of this incident or whatever caused the cardiac arrest. We're not taking anything off the table. So there also is a story about cardiac arrest. I don't know where that came from, or what it actually means. There could be a couple of drug overdoses in this cohort of people who died. I'm not disputing that. But what people who saw the event say happened was that people were trampled and crushed, and they couldn't breathe. And that's not a drug overdose. And that means that something went very, very, very wrong at the Astroworld festival, and that what went wrong was preventable, because all of these things, even if there was a drug event, of course there was a drug event. It's a music festival. There are drug events. So you're supposed to be prepared for all that stuff. Your safety plan is supposed to include all that stuff. And yet what we had were reports from people that the medics didn't even know how to do a chest compressions on people. They were administering Narcan, which is the antidote to a drug overdose of certain kinds of drugs. How do they know it was a drug overdose? I mean, they were giving Narcan, but that doesn't mean it's a drug overdose, right? Could have been something else. I mean, it was, to put it mildly, according to credible people who were there, an absolute shit show. The other thing you need to be looking for is what the chief of police is saying. His name is Troy Finner, and he was asked why they didn't stop the show. He says, our people stepped up immediately and went to the producers and told them, hey, we got people going down. The show ended at 10:10 p.m. he says. The mass casualty event was declared at about 9:38, and people started going down almost immediately, according to eyewitnesses who saw it. So when he was pushed about why he didn't stop it sooner, he says because he was worried about rioting. He was worried that if he stopped the show, there would be rioting. So let me just play for you from the man who spent decades getting to the truth about what happened at Hillsborough and clearing the names of Liverpool fans for the dead and the maimed and those left behind. Let me play for you what he said after I told him about Chief Finner's explanation for why they didn't stop the show sooner.
If people are suffering from crush-asphyxia, which means that they're being asphyxiated by the crush, they cannot get air. They only have 3 to 4 minutes to live. Even if they can snatch the odd breath, they probably will only live for 10 minutes. So every second counts. And the idea that you don't stop a show where fatalities are happening because you fear there are going to be more fatalities, to me, is reprehensible.
So Phil Scraton knows more about these events that cause crush-asphyxia than most people, most experts do. He spent decades studying what happened at Hillsborough, but he also spent a lot of time studying how the lie began that it was the fans' fault. And I fear, based on the coverage I'm seeing, that we're going to see the same thing happen around the Astroworld concert. There are a lot of forces at play here. This is a big money business, and there are a lot of careers on the line. People will lose their jobs over this, maybe. So make no mistake that the pump is being primed now, and it's going to take the brave voices of the eyewitnesses to step forward and talk about what happened and when it happened and how it happened. They are the keepers of the narrative around this tragedy. For me, the most brave voice of all is a young woman, I believe her name is Sienna Faith, who was in the midst of one of these crush events, managed to get away, tried to alert people about what was happening. Travis Scott was still performing. So what did she do? She climbed a ladder up to a podium to talk to the cameraman to warn him that people were dying. Here is the footage of that. And she posted her report on her Instagram, and then videos of her climbing up proved that what she'd been saying was true.
Let's go.
What an astonishingly brave young woman she was. I mean, she saw it for what it was. Again, system breakdown. There's a system breakdown here when you've got fans climbing a ladder to tell a cameraman at a show that people are dying in the audience. It was just absolutely shocking. Here is a clip from Phil Scraton talking about how brave she was.
If a young woman can climb up onto the stage and make it clear that people are dying and at best are being injured, if she can make that clear there and then, why did those in authority not see what was beneath their eyes? That's what I cannot comprehend. That's where the negligence occurs.
So, right, I mean, I think that pretty succinctly says it. So we're going to watch this play out. Like I say, there's powerful forces at play here, and they're going to try to co-opt the media in every way they can. And the people who lost their lives and are injured, or people who are traumatized by what they saw, and believe you me, these crush situations leave a scar, because you actually have people being forced to stand on the bodies of their fellow concert goers, and they cannot move off. It is awful, people. So a lot of trauma there. So as this plays out, just watch and see what the officials are saying they think the cause of it is. The last thing they're going to talk about is whether or not this concert was planned properly, whether they had an appropriate safety plan, whether they'd looked at all of the possibilities of things that could have gone wrong. It's a rock concert. It's a hip hop concert. Stuff's going to go wrong. Right? Got all these people coming back from COVID lockdown. They're excited. And even saying that, there's no evidence that this was caused by the crowd. They're suggesting that even the push to the front, which is how the people at the front, some of them got into trouble, was bad behavior. But everybody does that at those events without barriers. Unless you're going to put up barriers, everybody's going to do that. And the people at the back don't know that the people at the front are dying. So they keep pushing. They don't know that. So that is one of the awful secrets of these crush injuries. So do listen to our special episode that we're dropping tonight, which is Wednesday night. It's an extra. And we speak to Phil Scraton about the Hillsborough event, which was, it's an incredible story. There's a documentary about it that won a BAFTA award that's really worth watching, and he wrote a book about it. But his analysis of what happened on Friday night is really, really important. So I hope you visit us on the Trish Wood is Critical podcast tonight so we can talk about this a little more. Stay critical. See ya.